Back to Newday, you're live on TV3. Quickly to the newspapers, we'll look at some of the topical stories on the front and back pages and sometimes in the middle page. Some good stories are in there. We'll be looking at them. My guests are seated. But quickly, let's look at what the papers are saying on the front page of the Daily Graphic this morning. It has a disturbing story. It says a man arrested for stealing AK-47 rifle from cop sleeping on duty. And Parliament wade into GNPC ex gratia payment, but Esther Koba denies receiving any money. Trainee teachers kick against exam policy. On the back page, taxi drivers demonstrate against use of tricycles for commercial activities, and this took place in Tamale. The Business and Financial Times said, spend oil cash on education. Civil Society Group says, spend oil cash on education. Shore up forex inflows to sustain city. And 4G auction will be free and fair. That's coming from KPMG. On the front page of the Finder newspaper, VRA to shout down one turbine due to dropping water level. And GNPC hasn't paid me ex gratia, and that's from Esther Koba. Daily Guide newspaper says, Ghana second most corrupt, says TI survey. That's Transparency International survey. And also Mahama Bexmi, Amidu reveals secrets. And Asamajan raped Sarah Kobler, and that's from lawyer Morris Ampao. And MPs raise query over prices of low-cost houses. And that's on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. It says MPs raise query over prices of low-cost houses. Pandemonium in Tamale as cabbies go on demo, and West Coast students demo turns violent, also on its front page. Cabinet upon faces NPP suspension today, and that's the Herald carrying that story. And the Republic, my final paper for the morning, says Mahama tackles world leaders on climate change. That happened over the weekend. And Akufo-Addo on Warpath threatens to chase out NPP dissenters, calls them spies. Okay, that's on the front page of the Republic. All right. So that will do for the papers this morning. Quickly, let me introduce my guest for this morning. And my extreme right is the boss of CCFM. A very good morning to you, Mr. Samuel. And I say you're board member of NMC.
I'm a member of the commission.
Of the commission?
Yes, please.
All right. Okay, I'll come back. I'll have a question for you. I'll come back to that as well. And also the CEO for HR Perspective, Dr. Edward Kwapon. A very good morning to you and welcome as well for joining us. And then we have the Greater Accra Regional Chairman of the National Democratic Congress, Mr. Adekoka. A very good morning to you as well. And thank you, gentlemen, for coming to our studios.
Thank you.
What does this mean? What are you hoping to do with this, being a member of the National Committee? What do you think you can do?
We have a chairperson.
Yes.
And he's yet to meet with us to espouse his vision and what he has in store for us. Mine is to play along and then make sure that the constituency which I represent, which is the independent broadcasters of television and radio, is able to make their relevance more effective and to be able to connect to policy as effectively as I can.
Okay, so that's the one thing you would take to them if you have.
Well, that's why I'm there.
You're there.
That's why I'm there.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Sharing that with us. So quickly, let's get to the newspapers, and I'm interested in the story that is carried on the front page of the Business and Financial Times. It says, spend oil cash on education. That story is on page 3, just a quick 2 paragraphs, and it's from the Institute of Fiscal Policy and the Integrated Social Development Center, ISO-DEC, and they have called on government to consider allocating higher proportion of its oil revenue to finance the education sector. Now, the two organizations at a forum held for the media on the 2016 budget said government's failure to commit funds from the annual budget funding amount of the petroleum revenue to education in the 2016 budget is worrying. We'll get to how much. I think from 2012, from 2.5 to 3.6, 4.4 billion last year. That's how much education has had over the years. My question, I want to start with some men. When it comes to education, we'll come to spending oil. If you had the opportunity, what would be the critical area you would want government to look at? The most important you think government should look at when it comes to education?
You see, my thinking is that the whole education thing is a continuum. So it gets a bit difficult when you want to kind of crack them into different parts, because one feeds into the other. And the world over, basic education has always been priority. Without an effective basic grounded education, everything else that comes after is of no effect. So if we have money to raise the standards of our education, I think the way to go is to do more with basic education. Okay. And what I mean by basic education will be from nursery up until one is done with JSS education.
Okay. And with that, let's talk about even capitation. Free uniforms, they give them exercise books.
Yeah.
Let's look at the spread.
Those are not components of education. Those are relief elements to you see, because we have a certain cultural disposition. Education by itself is not an answer to all our problems. It is how we have harnessed education to solve our problems. That's the most important. But as you move from one community to another, or even one village to another, education means different things to different people. That's how come in a village, while school is going on, a father or a mother can come and stand there and call Kwabena, Besinyanko Jom, and now Besinyanko. You know, it's still happening in 2015. So I think to give relief to some of these deprived communities or deprived parents so that they can make up for the loss of the presence of their children at home, that's what I see as a relief element. But in terms of the core functions, the core elements that define quality education, I think we need to take a second look at the quality of instructions, which is the training capacity and capabilities of our teachers, right from beginning to that secondary level.
Okay, all right. I want to put the same to you. What would be the critical thing, the top thing that you want to see? Han, if he talks about basic education to be like the foundation, the bedrock of driving our education. So if it's quality, it is standardized, we will see some progress.
Yes. Well, first of all, let me talk about education in terms of primary education, sure, secondary education, and tertiary.
Sure.
And within tertiary, we have the degree and you have diploma. I would want to focus more or spend more money on diploma programs, because they provide middle-level technical personnel to support, senior management. And for me, that is an area that we can quickly add a bit of entrepreneurship training, and then they can be on their own. Okay. We live in a country where we are churning out so many graduates. I'm told it's about 45,000 graduates across private and public universities per year. And these people are not finding jobs. You go to study the humanities, you go to study fine art, and then you come out. What use can you put that education to? Immediately you realize that there is nothing for you to do. Incidentally, the public service has frozen recruitment into that area.
Sure.
The private sector is not expanding. So what are we doing with all these graduates? So for me, if you're able to give them technical education at the diploma level, in the hope that with time they can also top up and have a degree, I'll be more comfortable. Because they can quickly set up something, SMEs, and start running, rather than waiting for the public sector to expand to absorb them. And the private sector is also not expanding. Now, the question I've always asked is this. At the national level, have we taken a good look at our educational policy vis-a-vis the employment policy? The two must, meet at some point. Otherwise, there is oversupply of graduates, fine art graduates, focusing on Shakespeare and what we call it, the linguistics in today's world, when Ghana needs technical people to support industry. So for me, I'll focus more on the diploma level.
Okay.
And like my good friend here said, we also need to improve the quality of the faculty that we provide for these institutions, so that we can have quality education. Let me tell you a joke. My former boss in AGC once told me a story. He went on attachment training in Australia, and he was working for a mining company. Mining in terms of the division called mining, as against say processing. And at the end of every month, the boss of the division, the mining division, would throw a little party, like a social, and they all gather. Now, within the team, the senior members will sit at a table and have their names and titles displayed. So everybody came with their BA, BSc, so and so. And there was this man who always had DPP. No, BDD. BDD. So one day he says, well, I'm not familiar with your certification, but what does it stand for? BDD, what does it stand for? And he said, oh, bulldozer driver. And he joined the company as a bulldozer driver, but worked his way through to become manager of a mining company, a division, you know. So his was BDD, and he was proud of it. Even though eventually he had gotten some other certification, he was interested in the BDD. So for us, or for me in HR management, I'm interested in results, business results. And whatever it takes to deliver that, I'm for it. But I particularly look at diplomates, how to bring them up and recognize them.
Okay. I think before the 2016 budget was read, I mean, we did our own a bit of a documentary, and the government had been able to eliminate 100 and something schools under trees. Quite a, well, okay, of some sort. The government seemed to focus more on relief, giving textbook, laptops, and the like. How about the training of teachers? How much has gone into that?
Let me say good morning to yourself, your viewers, and my colleagues here. I mean, I would rather look at it in a different perspective. Every child must have the opportunity to go to school. Us sitting here, if we came from certain villages where there was no opportunity for us to go to school, we wouldn't be where we are today for us to get diploma, as my brother would say, for us to be more, you need to ensure that basic education across the country, every child in a village must have the opportunity to rise from the village to attain the whatever heights he wants to attain. So we've neglected basically. Well, look at the streets. You go to the streets today, and you find kids who have to be in school, selling dog chain, phone cards, and we are talking about, my brother is talking about diploma. No, that's the fundamental mistake. That is why the government says that in our constitution, every child from cradle, when you are born, year 2, 3, you should be able to go to a kindergarten. That is where you are going to acquire your skills. You look at other jurisdictions. When you go to this kindergarten, you have kids having asked them to do drawings. You see them with their ink, just painting something. But eventually, they start picking up certain skills. You go, these with kids that you see around, this computer and all this were started by people with 10, 12-year-olds.
But the systems must be there.
That's what I'm saying. So we should focus more, right? That's why the government has tried to eliminate the schools under trees. Just last week, I went to somewhere called Obinya, somewhere in the Eastern region. I went to a funeral there, right? And as I was going, I saw these kids learning under trees. I said, how are they going to emerge from that area to come and sit on TV3 and become a very good hostess like me? So we have to go there first. That's why Kwame Nkrumah started these schools all over the place. Ghana National, Tamale Secondary School. It started from basic education. So we have to rather focus, and then when we have acquired the skills, then we can start talking about employment and education related subjects. You see, so we must start from somewhere and then get to the area that we can now look at. That's where another jurisdiction for university education, you have to take a loan, because there you are now going to have to pay for your education because at the end of the day you are going to work to earn something. So we should rather emphasize more on that basic level and then the middle level, and to ensure that everybody has access to education. So they are right, we should spend the oil cash judiciously. When we are doing that, it must go to areas that everybody will have access to education. We cannot leave people behind education and say that we are going to concentrate on the universities and that kind. And then when you go down there, people are.
But the very remote people are the ones who are suffering. I think at least those in the cities are privileged. Yeah, and people will have to walk 3 miles, barefooted to even get to a facility. And then the teachers aren't there. So the question is, so what is government really doing about it?
Well, that's why government should create a neighborhood environment for people to. That's why the new schools that are being built, right, the E blocks, have got bungalows attached to it. You must create the facilities that will entice the teachers to go and stay there and train them, because if there are no facilities there, they would want to go. But then, that is what the national service, the concept of national service that was started was to ensure that people who have acquired a certain educational level will go and provide certain services, like the voluntary services. All these things over the years have been killed. When we were kids, we are voluntary to do a lot of things. Where the concept was based on the United States voluntary service. So, we should ensure that we entice those unemployed youth who are working all over the place. We should entice them to go to the villages and teach, and help bring up our brothers and sisters in the villages.
Yes.
I guess a few thoughts on the issue that Dr. Kwapon raised on the diploma.
Yes.
I've always thought that attaining a diploma in an academic course is totally useless. And I explain that. Attaining diploma in history as opposed to a degree in history, I would prefer for us to strengthen the diploma courses in professional areas. Technical and professional areas. Say diploma in catering, diploma in hotel management, stuff like that. But getting a diploma in history or in administration, really, what do you become? That said, now you have polytechnics, and I hear all polytechnics wanting to become universities. Now, my problem with that is, why do you want to become a university only to replicate what the established universities are doing already?
Yeah.
How come all polytechnics are now doing marketing, business administration, and leaving out the core technical elements that support industry? And that's why, Mr. Adekoka, your beautiful car, when you take it to the mechanic, the third time, it will come back with more problems. Because they just can't figure out where we have gotten to in auto technology. They can't figure out. They were not trained. So this is a problem that we have. Industry is failing because polytechnics are not up to speed. And instead of focusing, if we want to do technical universities, that is fine. And I think that polytechnics should be stopped from doing all these so-called marketable courses. Everybody is doing marketing and administration, accounting, And I said that who should do the METs that we used to do, EET, electronic, or who should do it? Okay. And so that's why we don't have technicians anymore, and it's a problem. Okay. So polytechnic education is key, technical education is key, basic education is key.
All right. I wanted to even ask about, I don't know if there was a tape of a teacher being interviewed, and he started, he couldn't express himself. So he said, I wanted to use L1, which means he wanted to go local. Then he started, was very comfortable, was able to express himself. And I know the education service, the ministry, they are thinking about localizing the basic, the primary 1 to 3, in our local language. They cited the example of China, Korea, where they are training their local language and have become more successful. Exactly. Is that a wrong pursuit?
I think we are not. We are comparing apples with oranges.
With orange, okay. So
you see, you have countries where language is homogeneous, which is not the Western person's language. Okay, If you go to Korea, they have 2 languages, major languages. I'm sure there will be a few dialects, but they have a national language that is not foreign. We do not have. We have a national language which we have inherited from the white man. Indeed, some of our local dialects have even borrowed words from foreign languages. So as for the empirical establishment that if you instruct a child in their local language, they assimilate it better, no 2 ways about that. It is true. But is it plausible? Because we are even struggling to adopt a local language. Mr. Adekoka, you are a Fanti. Would you sit down for your children to be taught in, say, Ga because some president decided that we should all speak Ga? It's not going to happen. Akan is the most widely spoken. A Ga person is not going to sit down for their children to be Akanized. It's not going to happen. So let's make good use of what we have. One, and I've said this here, we don't even have Ga teachers anymore in our schools. In Greater Accra, go to Greater Accra region schools, whether you find Ga teachers who've been trained to go and teach Ga, you don't find them. So even in the present dispensation, we don't have local language teachers. And we are thinking of going to adopt one language. It's just going backwards. For me, what we have, we strengthen it. If you go to certain, look, when we were in school, we were given the option of doing Ga. I went to secondary school in the central region, but I still did Ga. And we had capable Ga teachers. Now, Ga textbooks are not being written again. This is Greater Accra. Mr. Adekoka, find out how many new Ga textbooks are being written. So we are on a suicide mission with our education, and yet we pretend that everything is going well because every day somebody is building a new university. Meanwhile, the person who is building the university, he hasn't been to university himself, and nobody is questioning it. I think we have a bigger problem than even this one is suggesting.
Okay. Actually, I think in getting to the tail here, he actually brought what I wanted to ask. Where is the problem? Is it the thinking? Is that we lack, direction as to where we want our education to go, and we're engaging in knee-jerk, finding knee-jerk solutions for problems that must have time to design and resolve. For Doctor?
Yes. Well, I think we've not been consistent with our educational policy. We keep changing direction. But essentially what I was saying is that in most organizations, you go and you find out it's so top heavy, so many graduates, and from there is a gap, and then you have junior staff. Okay. I think we need to fill that gap. That's why I said let us focus on middle level management personnel, people with diploma. And apparently I was talking about technical. That's why I said with that technical knowledge and a little bit of entrepreneurship training, you can set up something on your own. On the other hand, when you go into industry, there is a gap to fill, and that's why I said in terms of priority, I will focus on the middle level diploma, technical, not just diploma. I don't think anybody runs diploma in history in this country. No.
Well, I use that as an example of an academic course.
Yeah. In a way. So that is the point I was driving at. That we need technical people to fill middle level positions in organizations and ensure that there is that kind of alignment.
Okay, but Doctor, I wanted to find out, from where we're going. Today, the ministry says, because others have been successful with local language, and you heard that it's someone says it's a dangerous path to tread because we don't even have we have a national language, which unfortunately is foreign, and that's what we've come to accept. So where is the problem in terms of directing our education to address the needs, or to address the needs and train people who would be able to man what we have in our country?
Oh, right. Yes, this debate about local languages being a medium of instruction for people to study quickly, I've heard it bandied around quite a few times. Okay. But I think everybody in Ghana is now moving towards English. And so my brother Adekoka sitting here even speaks English to his children at home, and so my brother here. So in a way, tacitly, we have agreed that English should be the medium of instruction. And so for me, it's for us to strengthen, the teachers to be able to deliver and train. People have studied Russia, people have studied French, They have studied so many other languages, and they didn't have any foundation whatsoever. In fact, Russia, you only start learning it when you get to the university. Spanish, the same. French, we tried with it from 3 or something upwards. So for me, if you are all moving towards a general direction of wanting to see English as the basic medium for communication, medium for giving instructions to our students, let us support that. But let us train teachers to teach English and teach English very well. Then we will benefit from that kind of system.
Okay, I think you want to make a point.
Well, I mean, I agree with him, but you see, it's a very wide scope what we are dealing with. I ask myself all the time, why is French not compulsory? Why do we make mathematics compulsory? Why? Why should a country like Ghana make mathematics compulsory for everybody and not make French, because we are bordered by French countries? If you move to the left, up, right, French countries, and yet French is not compulsory. But maths, why are we taking maths too? You tell me. You do your work. You don't need maths.
I need French.
I did maths. No, I did mathematics to university level. I'm not throwing it out, but I'm saying that as a compulsory subject, think about it. We just inherited the thing like that, and which we are. So you see, a bright student who fails in mathematics doesn't have the opportunity to move beyond. Meanwhile, they are getting top A's in other subjects. And I ask, why should it be so? It's unfair. French is very key and strategic. Before we came on, myself and Mr. Adekoya were talking about intra-Africa trade. Why can't we talk to one another within even the West African region? Go to our hotels. We talk about tourism. Find out how many of the officers there have more than one language of international essence. When you go there speaking to you at the front desk, you see foreigners standing there and the hotel officers are speaking local language. What is tourism about local language? So I'm saying that we need to have a more effective focus on educating the citizenry in all aspects. As Mr. Adekoya rightly said, basic education, and then the others will follow. I get disturbed when I hear all these, everybody starting a school and the standardization is questionable. I mean, the standards authority should, I think it should now be an authority. Education standards should be an authority, so that we take it very seriously. We sit and look at other countries. In the United Kingdom, they review their syllabus every year. They review it, introspection. They know what is good for them, what is not good for them. And then they try and make changes to suit industry. But here we are. Look at that.
I have to move on to the Ghanaian Times now. The Ghanaian Times has the biggest story on its page is MP's query, raise query over prices of low-cost houses. And I remember not so long ago, I believe private estate developers had come out to say, well, the houses they sell, they are expensive and that theirs is cheaper. And I believe the Minister for Works and Housing did say some of the houses have not been cost yet. But in Parliament, they're saying that, under the project, the indicative cost for a 2-bedroom house is $29,000, while the 3-bedroom houses cost $57,000 each. The houses are being constructed for low and middle income public and civil servants and men and women of the security services in and around Accra. What's affordable to you?
Affordable. Depends on your taste.
No, I've asked you. But what's affordable? I'll ask.
The way we build our houses, that makes it very expensive. You have to look at iron rods, cement, but there's now a modern form of construction, what's called cladding, right? So, in other jurisdictions they use wood, treated wood. And after that, they just clad it and it becomes. So it's very cheap, very, very cheap. In our part of the world, even the weather, the climate, right? And we go about, like Samir said, over the year, what the British brought to us, concrete, bricks, all those kinds. That is why when you ask me what's affordable, I want to say.
Okay, but the private estate developers talk about, the taxes. the importation, so the materials itself they would use. At the end of the day, you're pricing at $57,000, and it's for security.
That's what I said. I mean, if we have local materials here, I mean, cement that we import, we import the clinker. Everything about our building industry here is based on importation. But now, if you have a system where if you can use our clay here, right? But how many Ghanaians want to live in a clay house? That's why I told you, depend on the taste. We can bring these prices down if we use local materials, and that is a problem. If you are going to, if in your window, window, what do you call the window blades, you import them. Before we have a company here which used to produce a window blades, louvers and that kind of thing. They've all gone down, so that's the problem.
They've gone down because they didn't have support.
No, they've gone down because me and you we want to go to China and import because we think it's cheaper to do those.
But it is cheaper.
Yeah, but then I believe that if you put punitive taxes on those, and then the money that the revenue that we get from those, we use to support our local industries. Will be look Nigeria. I was talking to Sames this morning, like I said, they've restricted a lot of things coming from other parts of the world, and they are creating their own industries.
Who restricted it? It's government.
Yeah, I mean, look, all of us. I'll give you a very typical example. During the Kufuor era, they put punitive taxes on rice importation, right? That we should cut the importation of rice. So President Kufuor put punitive tax. Within 2 weeks, there was hue and cry. And what happened?
But the government must be tough. Look at what's happening in Tanzania. Government must be tough.
Exactly. There's a cartel. You know, we have a problem here. There are a lot of powerful institutions, cartels within the system, right?
So government is powerless because the cartel are more powerful. When people go to the government,
have you studied the rice industry? During the cartel,
and sugar.
Really, have you studied? Go around this morning.
No, I want to understand something. So you're saying that the cartel, they are more powerful. Exactly. They would rather run our country down, weaken our city, than for the government to be bold and say, no, it doesn't matter what.
So we, as a nation, I agree with you very well. And I agree 100%. That is where we should be bold enough to try and put those punitive taxes that will break the cartel. And then by so doing, we make sure that we grow our local industries. Look, if we don't do that, what we are talking about, prices, and they've said because of importation of all the material we use, carpets, tiles, terrazzo, all those things, we import them. So you don't expect the price to go when your CD2 is not strong enough to contain, because you spend so much money to go and import this kind of thing. What you have to do, the local industry, all of us agree that we must go local. That's why the government is saying that buy made in Ghana. So we should encourage our local industries here. Those who were
government is the biggest buy. They must start lead by example.
Yeah, but not going to China to go and buy chairs for parliament. Mm-hmm. You understand? I agree with you perfectly.
Okay,
I agree with you perfectly well.
All right, Dr. Kopon. The reasons are signed by Mr. Adekoka that the cartel, and I've heard cartel in all spheres of life and in different kinds of trades. Legal and illegal. It is there. I get it. But is that reason enough?
No cartel can be more powerful than the government of the day. No cartel can be more powerful than the government.
Mr. Samet is shocked. Why? Mr.
Doctor, what are you saying?
No, but
we are reading from a book.
No, we have institutions. Yeah. We have institutions and we have processes and procedures. And if you really want to suppress the cartels, we can do it. Unless, of course, these cartels are powerful enough to fund political parties to the extent that when they come to power, they can't do anything about it. But for me, the government is more powerful than any other institution, any other cartel in this country.
Okay. So
but having said that,
what would be
what I'm saying,
looking at the category of people that we're building for?
Yes. Well, this is certainly out of the way of, the means. It will fall outside the affordable range for the people that we have in mind. But then let us also be mindful of the fact that we believe in durability. When we are putting up a house or when we are buying a house, you want a durable property to buy. You do not want to buy something that will collapse within a short period of time. And therefore, yes, iron rods, cement and all that, they go to ensure or give us a certain sense of assurance that the building will last and last long. Now, what can we do? For me, for a long time to come, whatever we do, you still depend on imports for the real estate industry. What we have to permit or allow to happen in this country is competition. Let
competition in what sense?
Amongst the estate developers.
There is already competition.
To the extent that they will be compelled to explore avenues for using local materials, and for that reason be able to reduce the price gradually over a period of time. You see, if you don't allow that competition, that free competition to take place for demand and supply to determine the price, then you have this problem of hiking up the prices of the building units that you are putting up for the intended market. Okay,
but is there anything government can do, honestly, to waive off? I'm not talking about the tax waivers for the developers, but to make it affordable. I honestly want to use the word affordable. Why can't we build a house, say, for $10,000?
Yes. Last 2 weeks, I went to Tema, to a company called United Steel, and they have constructed a whole story building with what we call the sandwich panels. Okay. Sandwich panels. They are like prefab kind of. And from what I learned from the sales manager, it's all very cheap. Okay. So if these brick or the blocks, the cement kind of buildings are not affordable for the intended market, then perhaps we have to shift into these areas. And I know that, for instance, in Vignare, Akusi, there are so many prefab buildings that I saw in the 80s. They are still being used, no problem. So let us find out what kind of material to use to provide affordable houses for the target population. I think that will go a long way. And incidentally, I go to villages, even in the eastern region, and I see mud buildings built about 100 years ago, still standing firm. So why can't tech be encouraged to do more research and tell us how we can improve upon that and get durable houses that will be affordable? Okay. For me, that's something we have to do.
All right. Mr. Sammy, I'm not going to pose a question. I want you to
CSIR started something, and I don't know whether they have started.
Okay, I just want you to get your contribution because of where we started.
I think that as for trying to explore our problems, it's very easy for all of us to see where the problem is. Yes. I think we stop short at finding solutions. And there are times that even when the solutions are presented to us, we are not able to integrate the solutions into policy. Okay. In his conclusion, he mentioned CSIR. And CSIR is actually one of the most under-resourced institutions in this country. And this is the bedrock of research for industry for this country. We have the Building and Road Research Institute under the CSIR. I don't know what kind of budget they are running with. And indeed, they have scores of materials on research on our own local input to the real estate industry. But nobody uses them. What we have at Redco were supposed to be a starting point for the use of bricks. What happened? We stopped short at that. But go to the United Kingdom, they are still using bricks. But we stop because it's too cumbersome. We can't build a local industry out of brick making. So we create employment for the Chinese people. Everybody is going to Chinese to buy louver blades, going to China to buy roofing sheets, going to China to buy everything. Yes, it's cheaper, but it's more costly because it's keeping people out of jobs in our own country. He talked about cartelling. And Doc, cartels generally are more powerful than governments the world over. And a cartel doesn't mean he's doing something illegal.
That's what I said. I mean,
no.
It's because they have a certain advantage. In our particular situation, they have advantage of money. And their access to money is cheap. And they have the cooperative use of money. So they spend money around a community of friends or relatives. And most of them are of foreign descent. Some of them have managed to get Ghanaian passport, were born here. But we know them. And we just can't compete with them boot for boot with money because they have more disposable money than you have.
So what can we compete?
What we can is to encourage our own local growth. That's what we can do. Why, for
But it
instance?
must be supported, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that.
For instance,
Why don't we use bricks anymore? Why are the glass factories not supporting? We aren't supporting glass factories to build into the real estate industry. Why do we still have to go and buy glass from China when we have the capabilities? This is what we are saying. That why aren't we looking at internal, internal growth of our local industry to support the real estate? If we can do something in that area, I'm sure it will lessen our reliance on this. When I was putting up my house, this is 20 years ago. I don't know what I was thinking. And it was only recently that I realized I've been very stupid.
How so?
Because why did I have to use sliding windows? I thought it was the thing to do. But 20 years down the line, I was so stupid.
You can't get air to your...
Now there's no air. So now I'm thinking, so let me remove the thing and then put the windows that I'm used to. That's kind of thing. Because we make it look so glamorous. And we are still doing it.
And we're changing it. People are changing their windows.
There's more glass.
There's more glass coming. Yes. And hear me. We have some buildings that look like skyscrapers. 20 floors, 18 floors, and guess what? Our fire service, their certification is only up to 4 floors in Ghana. Only up to 4 floors. If I'm lying, they can come and tell us. Only up to 4 floors. So if something happens on the 18th floor, God forbid, what are we going to do? And we are watching and we are making it look so glamorous. Oh, nice building, an apartment. What?
We're looking European-ish.
Yes.
I guess.
I don't know why we do
so
this.
So it's inaction of government.
Absolutely. That's
well,
what I'm saying.
It is a combination.
That is my point.
Don't get me wrong.
They can fight
It's a combination of several things. Because guess what? While the government makes the effort, citizens help these cartels to dupe government in certain cases. So I'm saying that yes, a lot goes to government, but we as a people, what do we want? What do we want? He said it. President Kufuor started. What did people say? Hey, we want to kill us. Meanwhile, in our country, go to the Volta region, go to the eastern region. There are rice farms that are under-resourced. You go there, they harvest the rice, and it's there in the water, and it starts germinating again because they can't transport. The roads are bad to the regions. We are doing road in Laboni. When road from Adeso to Asamankese is in total shambles. And I won't stop talking about this road because it's so bad. The road that leads to Akwetia. Oh God.
It's been
okay, Doctor,
I
want you to make your point.
Yeah.
All right, please.
The point that I was making was this: that cartels, be they legal or illegal, cannot be more powerful than government. And I'm saying that America is the bedrock of democracy and capitalism. And yet they are able to discriminate against foreign imports. If you import a Toyota into America, you pay so much for it that you will not import. So you buy American.
The cartel there is strong. The cartel in the US is strong.
But America, no.
But they have been able to.
But America is able to resist imports from
the cartel have been able to ask government to do that. You understand? Yeah.
So will the NRA in the US does it fall under the cartel?
Yes. The automobile industry.
In terms of America's restrictions on guns, will the NRA?
Listen, I don't know whether what you mean is that government should be more powerful.
Absolutely.
That's the point
I'm saying.
Should be
to be able to fight the cartels, to ensure the interest
should be
of the greater number
but
of
if you say cartels can never be more powerful, we see it. Go to South America. What hasn't happened there? Even in France. Yeah. Look at what has happened over the years. Yeah. So what we are saying in trade cartels, the key instrument is access to money.
Okay, Mr. Mensah, I want to make your point.
Yes. So all I'm saying is that cartels, yes, but government should be able to fight them and to resist them for the benefit of the greater number of our people in this country. We are told that some cartels make sure that we do not revive the rail system because they have articulated trucks and therefore they will not Why can't government say that no? The bulk of my people come from rural areas. Let us extend, because railway systems are cheaper than road transport. So let us do that. We can't do that. Why not? Why are you so powerless? Why are we chickening out? It's like a cop-out. They are there, so we cannot do it. And our people are suffering. You construct a road today, within 3 years, the road is totally, destroyed because of these huge articulated trucks cutting all manner of things from the south to the north.
Okay.
Why can't we build railway lines? In any case, the model is there for us to build upon. So I don't really see our problem.
Okay, I want to move to, yesterday a report came out that Ghana ranked second most corrupt, says the TI survey. And the biggest story on the front page of the Daily Guide, however, is the Mahama Beck's Miamidi Reveals Secrets, and it's actually a piece he wrote that he has nothing personal against the president and on and on. But I want us to focus on the corruption bit, and I actually want to start from Doctor that a lot of people in Africa believe that, and in Ghana in particular, believe that government is failing or is weak in the fight against corruption. What would be your? Are you surprised that we ranked second to start with?
Well, nobody can be proud of the fact that we are the second most corrupt country.
Perceived corrupt country, yes,
in the world.
In Africa.
In Africa.
Yes.
Sorry, in Africa. It's an indictment on our governance in this country. But having said that, is it true that we are corrupt? And if we are corrupt, how are we able to determine? What criteria are we using to determine our level of corruption? I'm not sure what criteria the Transparency International used. But whatever it is, it might be reliable enough. Now, if we are corrupt, then the question is, don't we have institutions, structures in place to check this corruption? And so I always go back to ask this question: how come an individual has been able to unearth corruption in the judicial system when we have BNI, when we have CID, the National Security, what have you, Yoko, and all manner of institutions? Is it the case that the leaders of these institutions have not been empowered enough to deploy resources to prevent or to fight corruption? And so I always go back to what Obama said when he came to Ghana the first time after he had won power. He said that at this stage in the political history of Africa, we don't need strong leaders anymore, but we need strong institutions. I know that we have the institutions. The institutions must be strengthened to deliver, and perhaps we have not strengthened them to deliver. On the other hand,
and we haven't strengthened them to deliver because
at times when you ask, they say they don't have the resources. Now, as a nation represented by the parliament of this nation, when the Minister for Finance goes to present the budget, if corruption is such a huge issue confronting the nation, why shouldn't they ask for the allocation of money to these institutions to be increased? We need the money to fight corruption. But in a way, we all turn a blind eye to the reality on the ground and pretend that those institutions are working and they must be made to work.
Okay.
So for me, I'll call on government to release more funds, to strengthen these institutions, give them more resources to deliver, and I believe they will be able to deliver.
All right.
If an individual, Arimia Anas, has been able to do it, how much more these huge institutions and structures that we have in place?
Okay. Mr. Mensa, the Afrobarometer survey covered 43,143 respondents in 28 countries across the sub-Saharan Africa between March and September 2015. And also 75 million people have paid a bribe in the past year, some of these to escape punishment by the police or courts, but many also forced to pay to get access to the basic services that they desperately need. Mr. Mensa, surprised?
At our rating?
Yes.
Well, I mean,
in the last 12 months.
The CPI ratings, since it was first launched in 1995, has always, more often than not, told us what we suspect already. Okay. And I have heard people comment on this when they say that, oh, it's just a perception and it may be different from the reality. And truth be told, it just may be different from the reality on the ground. Now, unfortunate thing is that, you see, Burkina Faso, for instance, is next door to us, right? But as a journalist, when you want to get news about Burkina Faso, you probably get from the BBC. That is a problem. There's somebody sitting in a certain country that everything he knows about Ghana is what Transparency International writes. So we can sit here and do all the PR and dismiss everything. But guess what? This serves as a tool for policymakers at the global level to make certain decisions. So no matter how we look at it, it's bad news for us if you are ranked the second most perceived corrupt country in Ghana. I think most of these organizations, they pick a lot from the media. When they say they have conducted surveys, they probably, well, I mean, I'll give it to them because of their credibility, they will. But a lot is influenced by what plays out in the media. Years ago, I had been for a program at the SOAS. Mr. Adepa, that's where you went to, or you went to School of Oriental and African Studies, or you went to the economic school. That's right. Good. SOAS is supposed to be an authority on African affairs. And I had met with a certain Dr. Jeffries, who at the time was supposed to be the authority on Ghana. And guess what? The man just kept giving me newspaper clips on what this, then Democrats said this paper said this. And I'm asking, and he's an authority. All they do is to gather what the conversation, and then they feed it into their model, and then it extracts their results.
But the conversation is coming out of Ghana.
Yeah, that's why I'm not saying they are wrong. I'm just saying that the government will have to take this thing seriously, because whether you like it or not, this is the perception that is playing out there. And if doing nothing is an option, then so be it. But I think that they have to work at it. If we are strengthening the institutions that crack the whip on corrupt people, because this thing,
but this government
deals
really
with public officials and politicians.
Yeah.
These are the two places that they go. They don't go to even private, whatever. So public officials, and I heard somebody saying that, oh, maybe the Anas thing also was captured. Maybe, maybe not. But the perception is that we are most corrupt. And I heard somebody saying that, oh, and Nigeria, we overtook Nigeria.
That was funny.
So they are
you see how
in other words, we
laugh
that
at
Nigeria
it
is even more
because
corrupt.
we are used to hearing Nigeria topping the charts. Today,
we are
topping the charts. So there's somebody in another country who's having a go at us. We need to sit up because the corruption. Look, all the indices. The other day there was a UN index on sanitation, and we
were number 2 again. And we were second.
I don't know whether we are buying the number 2 spot for keeps. Everything we are, so anytime they try to do a measurement from outside of Ghana, our placing is a bit uncomfortable. And we need to do something about it.
Okay. Mr. Adekoka, 43,000 is such a huge number. And when you look at it, 75 million people say they have paid a bribe either to the police or to even access public offices. Let's say if it's passport, if it's which other births and registry, immigration and the like. And then the conclusion is that the government is very weak in the fight against corruption.
Bridget, when it comes to corruption, like Samuel said, every morning when we wake up among ourselves on television, when we start arguing about this government is corrupt, that government was corrupt, and it spans the whole year round. So somebody sitting outside there, like Samuel said, we just pick it up and say, look, if they themselves are saying this to themselves, then it must be true. Understand? But the question is that, like he rightly said, the evidence. You see, when you go and pay somebody at passport office to help you to acquire a passport, this has been something with us for so many years. It has become a norm. You understand? It has become a norm. Why has it become a norm? Because if you are able to sit in your house and go down, there's modern technology, go on the computer and apply for a passport, and within 24 or 48 hours, you get the passport. Will somebody go and give somebody? He said
okay, but somebody must be fired for supervising that.
I'm coming there. I'm coming to that.
Okay.
That is where we say, first and foremost, the fundamentals. You have to make sure that, like I said, you have to create the avenue that it will be difficult for the person to be engaging, taking bribes and that kind of thing. Over the years, we have all gone to, because, like I said earlier, we have accepted those things as norm. You go to a television studio or a radio station. When you are going, people expect you to give them some solid.
Please, not TV.
No, not TV.
Not TV.
Please. I'm not TV. I'm not TV.
Just for the record here. People come here and they're going.
I'm just making it. You see, and it's a no.
No confio.
No confio. Oh, if you don't know, Papa no, tired in the why? You see, but sometimes you want to say, no, I've come to provide a service, and I'm going. So why should I? You understand? So the norms that we have created is now hunting us. So that's why the strong institutions must come in. That's why the
but I wanted to ask about the fact that, for instance, if you take passport office, right? The fact that an individual knows that if I pay, somebody in there will allow it.
Yes.
It would continue to happen.
Exactly.
Now, if you fire the person at the top of it, he would know it did happen. It goes down to the members there, and the next time it won't happen, because once we accommodate it continuously,
I've told you that over the years, this is what has been happening. So why are you going to penalize somebody? It's an accepted norm.
You can start from somewhere.
So you do that by making it difficult, right? So why do you have to centralize your passport in the UK or wherever you just in your house? Okay, fill the form, and within 24, 48 hours, you get your passport, even visas. So we have to create the institution, like we are all saying, that will ensure that these things are not happening.
But that's what government is failing to do.
Well, I'm not saying government is failing to do that.
That's what.
You don't have strong leadership.
I think you don't expect the party chairman to say that. Really?
No, but I admit it.
No, government has failed. No, government has failed. In this situation. Because the decision or that action that is required to sanitize the passport processing is a government responsibility.
I agree with you.
On that note, we can safely say that government has not lived up to expectation. You rightly pointed out to the United Kingdom. Go online, apply. If you have everything that is required, you choose. Do you want a 48-hour service? If you want that, pay £400. Do you want 1 week? Pay this. Do you want the normal 3 weeks? Pay £50. So you make your choice and you get your passport. Why can't we do that? That is the question. And why has it taken us so long?
That's
because people are benefiting.
For instance, if you see this that an officer stops you. I'm talking about abroad. And he gives you ticket.
Yes.
How do you even negotiate and say that?
No, you
but
don't.
Here, people would negotiate and pay their way out of it.
You see?
So because we've allowed it, if that officer takes and that officer is punished, do you think the next officer will do the same?
How many people have not been punished and they're still going on? That's what I'm saying. The institutions,
so we should still continue to fire people.
I agree with you. The institutions must be strengthened, right? And that, I agree with you that, you see, in our culture here, do you have something called the word resignation?
No.
We don't have those. You see, and these are norms, and that over the years, it's just some of the attitude. I agree. We have to, at a certain stage, bring these things into the fore to make sure that it works. Otherwise, we are going to continually be where we are. the institutions that we are having and our attitude itself must inform the way we do our things.
Thank you very much. You want to make a quick comment?
Well, it's our national psyche that before you get a good service, you must offer something. And you know, the chief politics used to be like horse. And yet, when you were going there, you always carried a ram or a drink or something. So it's become part of our culture.
And now I'm going to ask a very direct question. No, I mean, of course, with this in mind, this is the last 12. Do you think that indeed corruption has gone up in the last 12 months? Yes or no?
Corruption has what?
Gone up. I mean, perceived
the perception. Of course. I mean, this is no rocket science.
12 months.
It's of exponential proportions. I'm talking about the perception. I mean, look, I can't prove anything. But look, I'm saying this because I've had cause to have this discussion with my friends in NDC. I say, you guys, you have to be careful because I go to the villages a lot, and when you talk to some of them, they have this feeling that the government itself is some group of people who are just there to chop money and go away. I'm telling you. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
We cannot just go and chop government money.
No, I'm saying that.
How do we get over that?
No, it's
because if every morning we come and sit on television, all the airwaves, and we keep.
No, but it's a story. We're treating.
You see, you are an exceptional person in politics because prior to being in politics, you had a private business life that was known. What do we see today? There are people who are in public life who are known through politics. If they are dismissed today, they don't have a life again. They come into politics, within 2-3 years, they start driving the kind of cars that has taken you 20-30 years to buy. Okay. What would the person on the street think? That's all we are saying.
And so they would also want to get into politics.
And guess what? When they go out of power, they join us in the truck queues. Isn't it corruption?
Yeah. All right. A quick one. Yes, in the last 12 months.
Well, in marketing, people say perception is reality. I think it has increased to the extent that for a leading politician of a leading party in this country, I won't mention any, to say that his opponents were giving money, 1,000 Ghana cedis per person, for them to go and vote for him. I won't mention any. but people had to pay as much as 1,000 cedis to a delegate to go and vote for them in the just ended elections.
Okay. So, Mr. So what steps then will government be taking to reduce the perception that indeed it is corrupt, as in there's corruption in the public sector?
I think government should crack the whip.
Crack the whip. We've said this.
Yeah. No. It's seriously. I mean, yesterday when I
because it's like you're paying lip service to it. We're doing something about corruption. We are doing something about corruption.
This is a wake up
singing
call.
To the choir.
A wake up call. When I read that Ghana was the second most corrupt nation in Africa, I cringed, because our reputation out there in the world is very high. So that if this is what the perception is, it's about time government woke up and dealt with the situation head on. It's very important. Government should deal with, because it's not good for our image.
All right. I'd like to say a very big thank you to Mr. Adekoka. He's a Greater Accra Regional Chairman for the National Democratic Congress. Thank you very much for joining us. Also, Dr. Edward Kwapong is the CEO HR Perspective. Good morning, and thank you for joining us as well. And Mr. Samuel Atemensa is the boss of City FM. And like you say, Independent Broadcasters Association, right? Independent represent, and very soon will be, championing there, because he put their concerns. I am
the vice president of GIBA already.
For that. And I mean,
the latest one is NMC.
Yes,
on your behalf.
Yes, absolutely.
So treat me well.
All right. So
you see?
Thank you also. All right. So thank you all so much for joining us.